like to welcome each of you here to our council chambers for the meeting this evening. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the land which we gather as the traditional territory of the Nishnawbe, Ottawa, and Mississauga peoples. Confirmation of the agenda that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves the agenda for July 2nd, 2024 council meeting as presented. May I have a mover? Councillor Wright, seconder. Councillor Palmer, all in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Seeing none. Public comment. There's an opportunity for members of the public to speak to any item of business on the agenda. 2 minutes per person. Members wishing to speak will need to state their name and the item of business that they wish to speak to, and come to the front and press the button on the microphone, please. Seeing none. Consent agenda number 5, that the Council of Township North Huron hereby adopts consent item 5.1.1, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.4 for information purposes. May I have a mover? Deputy Reeve, Councillor Whitfield. Would anybody like to pull anything? Go ahead, Councillor Palmer, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Could we pull 5.3.2? It's about the Bruce County resolution requesting it's basically a health pause with hospitals and what have you. I think it's a good idea because all hospitals are at risk of closure. So, and we all feel that they're vital to our communities. So I think if we could just send a letter of agreement with that, please.
Thank you. Is there any other members that would like to pull anything? Seeing none.
So if your mover and seconder are fine with the friendly amendment proposed by Councillor Palmer, so your mover is Deputy Falconer and your seconder is Councillor Whitfield.
Yes.
So your new motion would be that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent item 5.1.1, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.4, exclusive of 5.3.2 for information purposes.
All in favor? Carried.
And then the second motion being moved by Councillor Palmer is that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs staff to send a letter of support for agenda item 5.3.2.
All in favor?
You need a seconder
Oh.
first.
Councillor Van Hitterson, all in favor? Carried. Public meetings, hearings, and delegations. We have with us this evening Brad Whitlaw, Continuous Improvement Fund, transitioning the Blue Box to full producer responsibility. He's in attendance virtually to present his video for us, and then we'll be having questions after that. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Brad at this time.
Thank you very much, Council. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, good evening, Council and staff of the Township of North Huron. As Reeve said, my name is Brad Whitelaw. I'm president of Whitelaw Waste Consulting, and I've been hired by Continuous Improvement Fund to assist municipalities as part of the Blue Box transition process. So I'm here tonight to provide some information to you with regards to the transitioning of the Blue Box to full producer responsibility. For tonight's agenda, what I'll be doing is I'll be presenting information on changes occurring to the Blue Box recycling program. I will walk you through the rationale for the change to the full producer responsibility from the province on doing a regulation review, timelines, council's considerations, community cooperation expectations, and information that communities need to gather. As a result of the percent of recovered recyclable material dropping and gross Blue Box costs rising, the Blue Box program was reevaluated by the province, and it was determined that a regulatory approach was needed, where producers of the Blue Box materials, as in the companies that make and import these products, would become responsible for the waste generated from their products and packaging. In Ontario, the Blue Box program is transitioning from a model of shared industry funding to one of full producer responsibility, where producers are fully operationally responsible for their products and packaging once they have reached their end of life and are disposed. This regulation 391-21 and subsequently 349-22 was finalized by the province on June 3rd, 2022. As just mentioned, it ensures that producers are fully responsible for operational and financial management of the Blue Box program. It sets mandatory and enforceable requirements for the Blue Box collection systems. It gives producers choices for resource recovery services in a competitive market. And municipalities may potentially be a service provider under this full producer responsibility framework if commercial terms can be agreed upon. The final regulation includes provisions such as the establishment of a province-wide common collection system that transitions all current municipal programs and expands service to all communities regardless of their size except for the far north, all residential dwelling types, schools, publicly run retirement homes and long-term care facilities, and various public spaces. It also includes an enhanced and standardized list of Blue Box materials that will need to be collected and recycled, as well as establishing high, progressive, and enforceable targets. Under the existing program or old regulation, we can see on the left side of this slide that we are collecting from single-family, seasonal residences, and multi-residential buildings. We did not have formal or complete acceptance of schools, long-term care, or retirement homes. When the new regulation came into effect, as we can see on the right slide, sources that were not previously included under the old regulation were expanded into the new regulation to allow for additional sources to be collected from. We saw public and private and elementary or secondary schools, long-term care and retirement homes, and public spaces formally adopted into the plan. There are many other sources that your community might currently allow to use your Blue Box program. These are often referred to as industrial, commercial, and institutional, IC&I, or non-eligible sources, which include businesses, non-for-profit, and municipal facilities, to name a few. These sources were not eligible under the previous regulation and will continue to not be eligible under the new regulation. If your community would like to continue to provide Blue Box service to non-eligible sources as of January 1st, 2026, you will need to manage, procure, and pay for the separate collection, haulage, and processing of your non-eligible sources separately from the new Blue Box common collection system that will be run by the producers. There are some properties that have both an eligible and a non-eligible materials component to it. Examples of that include residential apartments over top of businesses or beside them. The residential material will continue to be eligible to receive Blue Box collection as part of the new Blue Box common collection system, but the business material will not be eligible, and it will be up to your community to decide whether you want to collect from those sources. Under the previous regulation, we saw a mixture of materials being recycled in various communities. There were designated materials such as aluminum cans, glass, plastic, metal, and newspaper, which all communities needed to accept in their Blue Box program, and then communities could choose at least two other materials, for example, cardboard and polystyrene. However, under the new regulation, the list of designated recyclable materials will be harmonized. So in other words, it will be consistent across the entire province. We will see more materials being accepted in the Blue Box program as a result. As part of the new regulation, there are strict targets that producers must meet based on the material category. These targets are higher than the previous regulation was, and they are gradually will increase over time. There is a range of compliance up to enforcement of penalties that the Resource Productivity Recovery Authority, or RPRA, can action if producers are not meeting their targets. This is an area of the regulation that we saw much improvement on when compared to the previous regulation. Producers include brand holders, importers, or retailers of products that contain blue box material. This includes any company that supplies products containing packaging, paper products, and paper-like products into the Ontario market, including online sales. Producer responsibility organizations, or PROs, can be established to represent producers of paper products and packaging. Producers may meet their requirements and responsibilities under the new Blue Box regulation as being a member of a PRO. There are currently 3 PROs registered in the province of Ontario. They are H2 Compliance North America, Rise Solutions Incorporated, and Circular Materials. As the PRO for the majority of producers, Circular Materials is responsible for administering the new Blue Box program called the Common Collection System. Circular Materials is procuring and awarding agreements for collection and consolidation of blue box materials and has hired Reverse Logics Group, or RLG, to help arrange and manage its agreements. Circular Materials is the organization that municipal staff will work with to transition to the new Blue Box program. From July 1st, 2023 up until December 31st, 2025, producers assume responsibility for transitioning communities on or before the dates contained in the Blue Box transition schedule. Full extended producer responsibility begins January 1st, 2026, which involves expansion to non-service small communities, facilities, and public spaces. The Township of North Huron's transition date is April 1st, 2025. If a community transitions before December 31st, 2025, the deadline to decide whether to provide Blue Box services to Circular Materials under an opt-in or agreement must be passed in March of this year. So we've already passed that date. Communities that wanted to remain involved with the Blue Box program opted in until December 31st, 2025. These communities become a service provider to the PRO administrator, Circular Materials, which means they would be signing an agreement to get paid by the PROs to manage the Blue Box program according to their terms and conditions. Other communities can divest themselves of the Blue Box program, which means that they are opting out, at which point they will coordinate with the PRO administrator and their contracted service provider for a smooth transition. Circular Materials has competitive requests for proposals process for securing Blue Box services for each community on the transition schedule. This RFP process was used to secure a service provider during the transition period if a community opted out, and or it could be used to secure services post-transition, so January 1st, 2026 onward. This RFP process has ended, which means that if all eligible communities have declined to participate in the RFP process for post-transition services, Circular Materials will secure arrangements with an alternative service provider. Now, communities who have residents that rely on Blue Box services at a depot need to talk to Circular Materials about options for potential continued work post-transition, as Circular Materials has indicated a willingness to work with these depot-based communities as they have established infrastructure to utilize it. It would be best for your staff to reach out to Circular Materials to discuss this process and the options available to your community. There is municipal information that producers need in order to understand your Blue Box program and its practices. This information is listed on this slide, but to describe it a few, it includes the number of sources, for example, how many single-family homes receive recycling collection, the number of depots and depot operation hours, the materials that are accepted, and the type of bins used. It is important for all communities to gather this information and to work collaboratively with the producers throughout this process to ensure a smooth transition. At this point, I'll take any questions that council or staff may have at this point.
Thank you very much, Brad. At this time, members, any questions that we can ask Brad about? There's a lot of information that you gave us tonight, Brad, and go ahead, Deputy Reeve, please.
Thank you, through you, Reeve. Brad, I was just curious if there's been any forward studies of what the real cost to ratepayers beyond the current cost of disposal that we have now by going to this model. I mean, it's obvious that producers are going to have to increase their pricing in order to be able to facilitate the costs to their product now for the disposal of them. You know, in past, anytime that's been left up to the producers of the materials, they seem to use that option for a price hike that brings them profit. I just wonder if you have anything any data on that subject.
No, as far as CIF does not have any data on that. I'm sure Circuit Materials would, and that would be something that I don't know at this point in time. It's kind of premature at this point because all the municipalities haven't transitioned, so we haven't got to the January 1st, 2026. I know Circuit Materials is awarded all of their contracts out there, but what it has been and what their costs are, they haven't shared that information.
And just as a follow-up, if I may, how will the non-eligible entities be able to dispose of their recycling?
Well, depending on the choice that the municipality makes. So in your case, you have 9 months of transition. So from April 1st, 2025 to December 31st, your community can opt in and have service provided to the non-eligible sources. Post December 31st, 2025 or January 1st, 26 onward, those non-eligible sources will have to be responsible for providing their own collection services. So they'll need to negotiate with a private hauler to provide collection and processing of their recyclable material. So as I mentioned, the list on there is anything IC&I, any industrial, commercial, institutional. So that includes even commercial farms. So if a farming operation does not have a residential component to it and it's just strictly commercial, they would be considered non-eligible and would be required to secure their own private recycling collection service.
Wouldn't that enhance make a dual service?
The residential port, if they have a residential part of it, Circuit Materials will be obligated, and that's the addressing that municipalities will provide them with which type of farming operation has a residential, which is just commercial. So the residential component of it would get recycling collection as part of the common collection system from Circuit Materials. If it's just a strict commercial one, they would not be provided with collection. So from a community's perspective, during the transition period, or in your case, those last 9 months of that, your community can opt in and pay for that service to be provided by Circuit Materials. But as of January 1st, 2026, there is no option through Circuit Materials.
I guess one more, if I may.
Sure.
There's nothing in Circle's proposal to do a recycled compostable, say a green bin kind of collection. So that would still leave the municipality with having to procure a separate service for that and the garbage as well.
That's correct. Yeah, Circuit Materials is responsibility is just the blue gray box program. Municipalities are still responsible for the garbage and or organics program if they want to, if they don't already have a green bin program, to be setting up a green bin program for organics.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from any member? Please go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
Yeah, thanks through you, Reeve. Brad, do you have any idea how Circular Materials would cost an opt-in feature for our businesses? Would it just be based on total number of businesses, or do you have any idea for that?
What they do is they do have a cost per ton. It works out to be, the last I looked on their website, it's $200 per ton. So the way it's calculated is they use the MPAC calculation. So your municipality will work with them to determine the number of stops. So we've said, CIF has said to municipalities, you need to know the number of non-eligible stops that you have, whether there's various options that you can use, whether it's just MPAC or if your current collection contractor knows how many non-eligible service stops that they provide to, that count there would be provided to Circuit Materials, and then they will calculate it out based on a $200 per ton cost. What would happen is if your municipality opts in, they will withhold that from the payment that they provide to you. If you're opting out, you will need to pay that directly to whomever is your contractor during that transition period. So as I say, up till December 31st, 25.
I could ask a follow-up. So, I mean, for small towns like Wingham and Blythe, there's not really different stops. There's just a bunch of recycling out on the curb when it's recycling day and they come to pick it up, right? So I'm curious how this would even be figured out in a small town. I could see a large industrial or commercial establishment, like you say, there's large bins for recycling, which be a discrete stop, but that doesn't really happen here. So I don't know if you have any experience with how other smaller communities are dealing with that.
To the Reeve, there is a few communities there. If you're referring to like the downtown cores where there's a residential and a commercial part, and they all put it out in one area there. Some of the options municipalities are looking at is saying to the non-eligible sources, you have a different day of collection, so that doesn't coincide with the residential or the eligible sources. That defines it there. So there's going to be changes that are going to end up happening with non-eligible sources regardless. To separate out that material, that's one option they can do. Some municipalities are looking at different colored bins or type of bins, whether they go with carts or different size boxes, and saying that, you will use those carts for collection as opposed to the residents, which uses the boxes or a different color there when they roll that out to differentiate that. So that's some of the other options that municipalities we've talked to are looking at to address that issue with the blended material.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other questions from any members for Brad? Well, I know we all have our homework to do in front of us there, and I know we're going to be relying on Chip and our CAO to come forward and line things up. And yes, we don't have a lot of time to train the people, and it's going to be an interesting curve, that's for sure. So again, any other questions for Brad at this time? I'm sure you might be getting the odd phone call from our office anyways, Brad. So we really appreciate you putting this forward to us this evening. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we are going to 7.1.1 DR 2024-01 Notice of Request for Drain Improvement, Snell Municipal Drain. Is there any questions for Clerk Lamb here? Oh, it's pretty straightforward. May I have a mover? Counselor Van Henderson, seconder. Counselor Palmer. Yes, go ahead.
Sharif. Yeah, I'll just sort of share the info that I have. Um, you know, voting on something like this, I wanted more detail, so I phoned into Clerk Lamb and, so it's 130 meter, says meter channel, but where? You know, I just want to know all these things. So it is at the end of the run and it's filling in a ditch. That's his request. Just for your information.
You. Okay, I've had a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Carried. Finance Department 7.2.1 FIN 2024-19 allocation of museum donation. Are there any questions for Director Towns? No, no questions. May I have a mover? Counselor Wright, Counselor Whitfield. Go ahead.
Chief. Um, just the back and forth with county as, you know, how they wanted to deal with our kind donation. I was a little disappointed how it was coming, but so it's nondescript on how they didn't define, some North Huron heritage. Like, is that good enough for everybody, as the place for the money, knowing that it's going to Alice Munro, just to maintain that?
I'll maybe ask Director Towns if he just comment on this, please.
Through your review, Councillor Palmer, when we met with the Huron County Museum and Library staff, and attached in as the report is their donation policy, and it was just the language that was in our motion that they couldn't accept those donations with the language in the motion. So the intent from this is identical, but based on their donations policy, they can't accept it under those terms. So if council is desirous of the new recommended wording as per county, then I'll be, and if not, we can renegotiate.
So as it's titled, North Huron Heritage, everybody will understand that the money is set aside for, Alice Munro.
Through your read, because upon that is the intent. It was a very good, very well meeting. It was very well represented and respected and understood what these funds are for. Just again, due to the policy, the very specific language that we had provided, they were unable to accept.
All right.
Thank you for the clarification there, Director Towns. That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report from the Director of Finance / Treasurer dated July 2nd, 2024 regarding the allocation of museum donation for information purposes. And further, that the Council directs the Director of Finance / Treasurer to transfer all funds from the Museum Operations Fundraising Bank account to Huron County to be allocated towards preserving and sharing the North Huron heritage. We have a mover and a seconder, and all in favor. Carried. 7.4.1 Public Works - 2024-25 Wingham Sidewalk Extension Project, Josephine Street update. Are there any questions for Director Wilson at this time? Go ahead, Councillor Van Henderson, please.
Thank you very much. I found a price for those very few cubes of or square meters of concrete excessive. Is there a reason for that? Or if you look at the comparison between the what was it, 770 and 807, so there's not much concrete, but it's $5,500. I thought, like, how does that pencil out?
I don't have a lot of background into this, but I understand that it was a shortfall from the agreement with Huron County. It was their project. And they, whenever they did the invoicing, there was still this $5,500 and change that was still outstanding for the contribution from the township for this project.
Okay, so it's not a shortage for just concrete, it is a part of the whole project.
It is
That's
part
the
of the
shortage.
whole tendered project?
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Reed, please.
Thank you, through you, Reeve. Would a cost like this, not be supported through the, development charges when, that plaza was first initiated and brought forward to council? We had to do a traffic, analysis and sidewalk when all this was designed. Wouldn't that be covered under the development charges? To be paid through?
CAO or somebody.
I can't really answer that, but maybe Dwayne can give some clarification on the development charges. I wasn't part of those or understand that, or if that would be covered through this being a county project. And it was North Huron's contribution as part of the project to cover the cost of the sidewalk on this project, as well as the project they did in Blythe at the intersection there too. So it was really all through the county.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no other questions then from members? That the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report from Public Works Administrative Assistant dated July 2nd, 2024 regarding the Wingham Sidewalk Extension Project on Josephine Street for information purposes, and further that the council directs the Director of Finance Treasurer to transfer $5,551.61 from the Federal Gas Tax Reserve Fund to provide the additional funds required to top up the Josephine Sidewalk project. All in favor? Oh, mover, please. Counselor Wright, Counselor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. CAO 2024-15 Commercial Facade Improvement Grant Application 206 Josephus Street, Wingham. Are there any questions for CAO Evans? Seeing none, that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives a report of Economic Development Officer dated July 2nd, 2024 regarding the Commercial Facade Improvement Grant Application for 206 Josephine Street, Wingham. And further, that the council hereby approves a commercial facade improvement grant of 206 Josephine Street, Wingham in the amount of $7,907.74. And further, that the Director of Legislative Services clerk be directed to prepare and execute an agreement between the Township of North Huron and the applicant, which outlines the terms and conditions of the grant program. Mover, please. Counselor McBurney, seconder. Counselor Van Hitterson. Again, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. 8.1, Wingham BIA letter ratification of BIA board appointee, that the council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves a new appointment to the Wingham Business Improvement Area Board for the remainder of the 2022-2026 term of council as per the letter from Chair Tiffin dated June 27th, 2024. And further, that the council adopts bylaw number 53-2024 being the appointment of member to boards and committees bylaw at the July 2nd, 2024 regular meeting. And that gentleman is Mitch Pike is his name. He's the new owner of Staten's Hardware. May I have a mover? Counselor Palmer, Counselor McBurney, are there any questions? Very straightforward. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 9.1. Just after, I know a bit of talking going on before our meeting there about the weekend of the homecoming here in town. I just want to say a special thank you out to Heidi and Joe Carter for stepping up and just making this weekend such a successful one. And all the organizations like the Lions, Legion, Sportsmen, and many others like the other volunteer groups that helped improve the town. Just they did painting and the flower beds, just, you know, all that stuff to make things look good. And again, all the businesses that contributed to, they all made this this thing very, very entertaining and well done. And I can say the 2024 reunion was a great success. I just want to say thank you again to Heidi and Joe for helping out there and all the other ones involved. Again, the CKNX Barn Dance had its final performance a week ago Sunday. It is a complete sellout, and I just want to say a great tribute to Gord and Ruth Baxter. They've been involved for the last 25 years. One is the president and the other the treasurer. They worked hand in hand very well. They said if ever anything came up at Blythe at the campouts, he'd have everything in letters, all the tickets there, the meals. He just did a fantastic job there. And again, they presented a plaque to North Huron just for for recognition of being able to use the theater, the campgrounds, and the arena down for different functions they had in Blythe. So it is very much appreciated. And then at the end of that presentation, they had $50,000 left over, and they decided they're going to give it to as a bursary to the 5 different high schools in the county. So I thought that is a real success story for them to help out all of Huron County, because I know they all were involved all over Huron County too, plus beyond. But just a great thank you for that to the Baxters. So at this time, does anybody have a verbal or written updates from members who sit on boards and committees? Go ahead, Councillor Wright, please.
Yes, thanks through you, Reeve. So at the last Wingham BIA meeting, we did have the owner of one of our businesses attend. They own the local eatery, and they were concerned because they had been subject to vandalism. They had a window broke at their restaurant. And my understanding is that same night, there were 4 or 5 other businesses targeted with vandalism. So just a reminder, our BIA chairman, Dave Tiffin, is continuing to work on trying to figure out how to install security cameras on Main Street. It's something we do want to go ahead with, and it just exemplifies, you know, why having security cameras on Main Street would come in very useful. Thank you, Eve.
Thank you. Does anybody have anything to share from any member comments? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to echo your sentiments, Reeve, about the homecoming. There was, I don't even know how many events there was over the weekend, maybe 30 or 40 in total. It was very well run. It was very well attended. And I made a comment to the Reeve before the meeting. Thank goodness it's another 10 years before the next one, but we'll see. The 150th is coming up in 5 years. So there was some talk about having a homecoming at that point. But again, just a big thank you to all the volunteers that helped make it a success.
And some of the band playing too, that we appreciate the work that they did there. Yeah, and another thing I like to just say with kudos out to the I'll come to me later. They just had real good things at the train station, just a real good work by all the people. It's just a good time. Anything else? Seeing nothing, we'll go on to notice of motion. I'd like to bring forward that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby agrees to reconsider its previous decision regarding the outstanding invoice of the Wingham Columbus Center Hall project that was decided by motion M 162-24 at the June 3rd, 2024 regular meeting. And it'll become forward before July 15th. Thank you. Bylaws. Bylaw number 46 2024, Wingham Town Hall Theater Rental Policy. May I have a mover? Counselor Wright, seconder. Counselor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 50 2024, lease agreement with the AMDSB for before and after school program. May I have a mover? Counselor McBurney, Deputy Reeve, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 51 2024, municipal funding agreement for Canada Community Building Fund. May I have a mover? Counselor Palmer, seconder. Counselor Van Hitterson, all in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 52 2024, amendment to fees and charges bylaw. May I have a mover? Counselor Van Hitterson, seconder. Counselor Whitfield, all in favor? Carried. 10.5 bylaw number 53 2024, appointments to boards and committees bylaw. May I have a mover? Counselor Wright, Counselor McBurney, all in favor? Carried. Next meetings, the next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the North Huron Council Chambers. The next Wingham BIA Board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 15th, 2024 at 6:30 at the Hot Stove Lounge at the North Huron West Cass Community Complex. And the next Blythe BIA Board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 29th, 2024 at 8 a.m. in the Blythe and District Community Center. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none. Closed session and reporting out that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby proceeds at 6:42 to an in-camera session closed to the public under section 239 2D of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: labor relations or employment negotiation, HR policy manual updates. And further, that the Chief Administrative Officer, the Director of Legislative Service / Clerk, the Interim Director of Public Works and Facilities, and the Director of Finance, Treasurer, the Director of Recreation Child Services, and the Interim Fire Chief and Human Resource and Health Safety Coordinator remain in attendance. May I have a mover? Counselor Van Hitterson, Counselor Wright, all in favor? Carried.